Hey there, thanks for tuning in to S News. If you want to stay up to date with the latest breaking stories and in-depth analysis, make sure you follow us. And, if you want to support what we do, please subscribe, like, and drop a comment below. We really appreciate your feedback. The United States responds to China launching 40 missiles at Guam. On June 11, 2025, a massive 70,000-ton Chinese aircraft carrier, more than 40 hypersonic missiles, and nearly 30 fighter jets rushed toward Guam, home to some of America's most important military bases. This wasn't a war game. It was a chilling glimpse of just how quickly the balance of power in the Pacific could shift, and how America's forward defense system was ready to decide the outcome.
I've seen a lot of drills and saber rattling in my day, but this was something different. The stakes were real, and everyone knew it.
A few months earlier, after U.S. aircraft carriers destroyed Chinese coastal bases, Beijing took a desperate gamble to reclaim lost honor. They sent their flagship, the Shandong, along with billion-dollar destroyers just about 1,800 miles from home, hoping to crush Andersen Air Base and prove they could strike the United States directly on its doorstep. What followed was a dramatic clash of technology, principles, and boldness. Soon after, China would pay a heavy price for this reckless move.
So what happened to America? Stay tuned, because what's about to unfold might force the US to rethink how safe its forward defenses really are.
We had to show the world that China would not back down. Our honor, our future, everything was on the line.
At 6:15 a.m. on June 11, 2025, radar screens at Andersen Air Base in Guam lit up with constant alerts. The 70,000-ton Chinese carrier group led by Shandong and accompanied by 5 warships was sailing straight for America's most critical airbase in the Pacific. This was no ordinary exercise. Just months earlier, the American carrier Gerald R. Ford and its air wing had destroyed China's southeastern coastal defenses. In just 72 hours, over 15 major People's Liberation Army bases were wiped out. More than 40 J-16 and J-11 fighters, each worth about $70 million, were left shattered on ruined runways. The damage topped $6 billion, but the psychological blow was even worse. Beijing's precious anti-access networks failed spectacularly, revealing their vulnerability to U.S. naval air power.
Yeah, that loss stung. You could feel it all the way across the ocean. China's leaders weren't about to let it slide.
Determined to erase this humiliation, our only operating carrier, Shandong, sailed within 1,800 miles of home and directly struck Andersen. Our goal was clear: destroy runways, set fire to planes, and show both our people and Washington that China could bring war to America's doorstep.
By 6:27 a.m., Shandong's deck was alive with steam and thunder. 28 J-15 fighters took off, each loaded with more than 4,000 pounds of precision missiles and bombs, climbing to 25,000 feet in combat formations. At the same time, 2 Type 055 destroyers launched 24 YJ-18B cruise missiles flying at Mach 3 just 50 feet above the waves. 3 Type 052D destroyers fired 16 YJ-12 supersonic missiles designed to penetrate hardened shelters. In less than 8 minutes, over 40 Chinese missiles sped toward Guam, while swarms of J-15 jets closed to 200 meters, ready for coordinated strikes.
Andersen was home to more than 150 aircraft, from F-35 stealth fighters to B-52 bombers, plus 12 million gallons of jet fuel. It was the backbone of America's forward reach in the Pacific. A direct hit here could halt U.S. air operations for weeks.
China's move was shockingly bold. They risked $3 billion in frontline assets and hundreds of naval aviators on a high-stakes bet that a sudden strike could restore their shattered national pride. They believed destroying Guam would show the world China could take out American forces, forcing Washington to think twice before striking Chinese soil again. But beneath the confidence was desperation. Beijing's propaganda machine needed a win to erase memories of burning bases and dead pilots at home. They were willing to risk their flagship carrier and the prestige of their entire navy in a single gamble. As the first missiles crossed under 200 meters altitude, the Pacific turned from calm blue to a deadly battlefield. China wasn't just testing U.S. defenses. They were challenging decades of American naval dominance head-on, hoping to rewrite their story of humiliation with a strike that could change the balance of power overnight.
What do you think? Was China's gamble brilliant or pure folly?
As the first wave of Chinese J-15 fighters and more than 40 missiles closed in to just about 180 miles from Guam, the American defense network, it just sprang to life with ruthless precision.
Andersen Air Base wasn't just an airfield. It was the nerve center of a multi-layered fortress stretching across the Pacific.
Above the base, advanced E-2D Hawkeye planes scanned hundreds of miles using ultra-long-range ESA radar, feeding targeting data to command centers on Guam and to nearby Arleigh Burke-class destroyers.
Within seconds, digital tracking identified YJ-18 and YJ-12 missiles by their speed and flight path.
Along Guam's coast, THAAD missile batteries calculated intercepts in mid-flight.
Deep underwater, the USS John Finn and USS Ralph Johnson, each armed with 96 vertical launch cells, activated their Aegis combat systems.
These radars used advanced multi-beam tracking to lock onto dozens of fast-moving targets at once. Then, the first salvo of fire erupted.
SM-6 interceptor missiles launched from vertical cells, racing at speeds over Mach 3.5, designed to engage threats more than 230 miles away.
Their kinetic warheads didn't just explode near targets. They hit head-on, using sheer speed to obliterate incoming missiles.
Nearby, while some YJ-18 missiles managed to evade those long-range intercepts, ESSM Block 2 missiles fired skyward at nearly Mach 4, guided by active radar for deadly accuracy.
These missiles hunted down anything that slipped past the outer layer.
But honestly, the real battle was just miles from Anderson.
Many Chinese missiles skimmed just above the sea, hiding behind the Earth's curvature, and that triggered the last line of defense.
Rolling RIM-116 missiles, guided by passive infrared and RF seekers, created a crossfire of bright flashes, shredding low-flying threats.
Still, a few missiles broke through, rushing at Mach 2 toward the base.
That's when the CIWS took over.
6-barrel Gatling guns spun up to over 500 rounds per minute, firing depleted uranium rounds to create walls of tungsten that just tore through missiles in spectacular arcs of tracer fire.
Throughout it all, Anderson's automated command and control network fused space, airborne, shipborne, and ground radar into one fighting force.
Data from E-2Ds, Aegis destroyers, THAAD, and Spy-6 radars combined within milliseconds, coordinating every layer of defense without missing a beat.
This integrated tech formed a living shield, each piece working in harmony.
Satellites gave the big picture, Hawkeye planes tracked the chaos, Aegis ships neutralized major threats. Close-in weapons systems wiped out anything daring to come near.
This was America's true power, not just individual weapons, but a whole kill chain moving as one.
As the smoke cleared over Guam, burning debris scattered across the Pacific.
China had hoped for a crushing first strike, but instead, they crashed headlong into the most advanced multi-layered naval defense ever built.
They learned firsthand what decades of U.S. investment in precision sensors and real combat experience really meant.
Ready to see how the world's strongest military responds? Keep watching. The fight is about to get intense.
With Guam's defenses holding firm, it was America's turn to strike back.
Inside Anderson's fortified command bunkers, screens glowed with targeting data streaming from satellites, E-2D Hawkeyes, P-8 Poseidons, and even MQ-25 drones lurking at the edge of battle.
All this info fed into a real-time strike matrix pinpointing not just Shandong, but also its escort destroyers and support ships.
At 7:12 a.m., secure orders were sent out, launch a full counterstrike to neutralize the carrier.
Under the waves, 2 Virginia-class nuclear attack submarines hid undetected below 500 feet, opening fire with UGM-109 Tomahawk Block 5 missiles designed for maritime strikes.
These advanced missiles skimmed just 30 feet above the sea, using terrain matching and infrared scene correlation to sneak past Chinese radar envelopes.
In under 5 minutes, more than 20 missiles invisible to Shandong's old surface search radars soared out.
Meanwhile, Arleigh Burke-class destroyers west of Guam lit up the horizon.
Each destroyer, with 96 vertical launch cells, fired waves of Tomahawk missiles programmed for multi-target attack.
The missiles split mid-flight, striking separate ships in a carefully coordinated storm.
Shandong's escorts tried to respond, launching HHQ-9 interceptors, but sheer volume overwhelmed them.
Above, roaring EA-18G Growler jets jammed Chinese fire control radars across multiple frequencies.
ALQ-218 receivers and ALQ-99 jamming pods scrambled enemy electronics, breaking target locks and blinding ship commanders.
With Shandong's radar screens frozen, the real killers arrived.
F/A-18EF Super Hornets from Anderson and USS Ronald Reagan climbed to 35,000 feet, then dove sharply to launch AGM-158 JASSM cruise missiles, stealthy weapons with mid-course data updates and infrared terminal seekers.
Each packed over 1,000 pounds of high explosives designed to pierce ship decks before detonating deep inside.
As these advanced missiles closed in, F-35C fighters joined the attack.
Using distributed aperture systems, AESA radars and data links, the F-35s painted real-time targeting pictures, updating strike packages mid-flight.
This sensor fusion let pilots see the entire engagement area and share kill data via Link 16 and MADL networks, ensuring no wasted shots or overlaps.
By 7:28 a.m., chaos reigned on Shandong's decks.
Multiple JSM warheads slammed into its angled flight deck. The missiles headed straight for the fuel and ammo-packed aircraft hangars.
Secondary explosions ripped through the carrier, sending fireballs and twisted metal hundreds of feet into the air.
Crews ran in every direction, and some jumped into the sea to escape the chaos.
At the same time, a Type 055 destroyer launched its warheads, tearing apart the upper decks and igniting missile stores.
One of the Type 052D ships heavily listed to starboard before a final explosion broke its keel, sending it under the waves.
Throughout the attack, the U.S. strike unfolded like a machine.
Satellites tracked ship positions, jamming missiles blinded defenses, stealth fighters marked targets, and multilayered missiles hit with precise coordination.
No weapon system worked alone. They were all nodes in a vast combat network, linked by secure, jam-resistant communications that locked targets in milliseconds.
By 7:40 a.m., less than 30 minutes after the first launch orders, the waters east of Guam were littered with burning debris.
The bold Chinese carrier raid, meant to restore national pride, instead sacrificed its most valuable naval assets.
The Shandong, symbol of China's rising power, burned uncontrollably, listing heavily as thick black smoke columns rose to mark its grave in the Pacific.
This was more than just firepower. It was 21st century warfare at its most precise and rapid, with an ironclad network turning America's entire arsenal into one unstoppable living weapon. By 8:10 a.m., the scale of China's disaster was undeniable. The Shandong, pride of the Chinese Navy, was dead in the water. Its decks were twisted wreckage of scorched steel, shattered aircraft, and broken missile racks. Below decks, fires raged out of control, forcing the crew to abandon ship. Over 800 sailors struggled in the water, desperately awaiting rescue boats that might never come. Nearby, two Type 055 destroyers were badly listing, their massive hulls blasted by Tomahawk missile strikes that ignited fuel and ammo stores. One slowly rolled over and slipped beneath the waves, vanishing from sight. Lifeboats drifted in oily waters, surrounded by debris, broken radar dishes, scattered hull plates, and charred life vests.
You know, it's hard to even imagine the chaos out there. When a ship like the Shandong goes down, it's not just steel and machinery, it's hundreds of lives, all changed in an instant.
Our sailors fought bravely, but the enemy's strikes were relentless. We underestimated their reach and precision. This loss will not be forgotten.
Altogether, China's bold gamble cost billions in warships and aircraft, not to mention the intangible toll, shattered morale and the destruction of the flagship symbol of its blue water ambitions. More than 1,500 sailors and aviators were dead or missing. Even worse, Beijing's whole narrative of a strong navy capable of challenging U.S. dominance was left in ashes, broadcast worldwide through satellite images of burning decks and sinking escorts.
Across official Chinese media, broadcasts shifted suddenly from confident predictions of victory to cautious statements, offering only vague acknowledgments of unexpected losses.
In secret war rooms, PLA leaders faced a grim reality. Years of investment in a carrier-centered doctrine had been destroyed in less than 90 minutes of fighting. Meanwhile, the lesson resonated in every naval capital. Not only had U.S. forward bases and carrier strike groups survived, but a daring enemy raid had turned into a strategic disaster.
Pacific allies breathed a sigh of relief, reassured that America's security umbrella was no diplomatic slogan. It was a lethal, tangible shield. For China, the true cost went beyond ships and planes. It was a wound to national prestige, a warning etched in every smoking hull.
When you bet on striking American power head-on, especially by sending a carrier to attack a U.S. base, you're not just gambling with equipment, but with your country's credibility. In this clash, China paid dearly for everything it hoped to prove.
As the Pacific gradually calmed, only dark smoke columns rising above empty waters bore witness to the price of underestimating American resolve. In less than 2 hours, the Pacific had witnessed a stunning reversal of fortune. What began as China's bold attempt to reclaim lost honor ended with a burning aircraft carrier, sinking escorts, and thousands of sailors either dead or struggling in oil-polluted waters.
The message was clear and unmistakable. America's multi-layered defenses, precise strike networks, and unified combat doctrine can dismantle even the boldest naval maneuver with frightening speed.
For Beijing, this was more than a battlefield defeat. It was a catastrophic blow to prestige, a humiliation broadcast to allies and rivals alike. For countries across the Indo-Pacific, it was powerful reassurance that America's security commitments are backed by unmatched capabilities, not empty promises.
In the end, China's desperate attempt to rewrite the narrative only deepened its original wound, proving that challenging American power face-to-face risks not just ships and planes, but the very credibility of national deterrence.
Finally, thank you for listening and being with us through this story. If you want to stay updated on the latest news and analysis, make sure to follow S News and check out our future videos. Don't forget to